Recording with the one, the only, Miss Clare Lopez on Friday, February 17th, 2023 at 5:44 p.m. Eastern Time of Lopez Liberty LLC. As always, your Twitter, all of your writings are in the description. Go follow Claire. But because it is kind of can't really ignore it. I mean, just like the balloon story, you can't really ignore the our up and coming Made in America Chernobyl out in Ohio, and what seems to be a current refusal of federal aid from the current administration. Although I think, and I'm trying to get it correctly, I think the governor of Ohio originally refused aid, but then doubled back and requested it, and now he's being refused. I just want to get the story correct. I don't want to be a hysteric, it Biden bad across the board. I want to have uh some sort of rational mind to go about it. But Ms. Lopez, what is going on?
Right. So this crisis in East Palestine, Ohio, which is near the Pennsylvania-Ohio border, began on February the 3rd. So we're talking 2 weeks ago now already, 2 full weeks. And several cars from this very long, 150 car long train, 18,000 tons of train, several of the cars derailed. And they were carrying a deadly load of a chemical called vinyl chloride. It's an ingredient that is used to make polyvinyl chloride piping, for example, that you might be familiar with. There were also other chemicals on board that train. And after a little while, I guess it was determined that some of the vinyl chloride in one or more of those overturned cars was building up in a way that could lead to a catastrophic explosion. And so Norfolk Southern, that is the railroad involved, the railroad company that's involved here, Norfolk Southern decided that the best way, and in consultation with Ohio State officials, decided that the best way to deal with that was to leak the chemical out of the cars, um, and then set it all on fire. And that's what they did. And we've all seen those horrific images, the photographs, the videos of the plumes of toxic smoke rising into the air, the flames. And the thing is that what you're getting at there, Tommy, is that, in the period of time since then, which is 2 weeks, not only has no senior federal official visited the site of East Palestine, this devastated town. But as you mentioned, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine made a request yesterday, that would be February 16, to the Biden administration for FEMA assistance, Federal Emergency Management Administration assistance, and was flat turned down. You don't qualify. People of East Palestine don't qualify. Now, other assistance is coming in, yes, but why not FEMA? Why hasn't Department of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg been to the site to visit these people, to reassure them of what is being done to safeguard them, their environment, their water, their air, and their families? Why has the president, Joe Biden, not only not visited, but not even talked to the people of East Palestine? This is the trouble.
What, if anything, could be the reasoning behind that? Is it simply incompetence? Is it hatred for a red state? Is it just bad PR? I mean, there's like what's behind it? Not again, not that
Well,
you have the crystal ball.
I was just before coming on the air with you, Tommy, I was listening to an interview with Victor Davis Hanson on TV, and he was quite blunt about it. He basically said that the folks who live in East Palestine are not the same kind of folks who live in Beverly Hills, Martha's Vineyard, I don't know, Silicon Valley. They're hardworking working class people. They're not deemed worthy. They're not deemed sophisticated enough. They're the deplorables of Hillary Clinton. They're the ones left behind, or to be left behind, because they're just the Walmart people. And that is so insulting. These are the salt of the earth people. These are Americans. They're our fellow citizens. These are the ones who are working hard every single day to raise their families, put food on the table, and provide for us, their community, and the rest of us what we need, for everyday life. And yet, because they have a voting record that the elites in this country don't approve of, says Victor Davis Hanson, they're not worthy of FEMA assistance or a Department of Transportation secretary visit to the site or a mention by their president. That's what Victor Davis said, and I can't disagree with him.
Is he just for my own clarification, is he saying that in a sarcastic manner, or is he saying that in like
No. He was very serious about that. He meant that.
Well,
I mean,
he's
sarcastic in the sense that, obviously, these are salt of the earth people. These are patriotic American citizens. They're our fellow citizens, all of that. But this is how the elites look at them.
That's what I
Look
mean.
down on them. That's what he was saying.
He's saying this is how they look at him. He's not saying I personally think they should be
No,
left behind. Okay, I just for my own clarification.
No, not him, not us.
Yeah.
But
so
the coast, the coastal blue state people.
Yeah. So to look at, obviously that's one thing, is the response. The cause, is this as simple as it's, because I have to look at Occam's razor and go, we do have a bad infrastructure, and are these just corporations cutting corners? That's not a wild idea. Is this, and I just had on a former paramilitary agency guy, and he's floating the idea of, is this sabotage? This is absolutely kind of the, what is it, tertia optima, where it's not peace and it's not all out declared war. Is this sabotage? I mean, we don't have a southern border. It's not just Hispanics coming through. Is that an idea, or is that instantly jumping to the most?
Well, we really don't know that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what got my attention, Tommy. And this was a statement yesterday from Department of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who was speaking to the media yesterday on February 16, and said something to the effect of, well, these train derailments happen all the time. There were 1,000 of them last year in 2022. What? You're the Department of Transportation Secretary. That really got my attention, and I'll bet it got a lot of other people's attention too.
Yeah. I was looking it up. I think it's more than that. I think someone was saying from 1990 till now, an average of 1,700, which, in terms of intent, which is important, that it doesn't make it any better, but it does make it better in the sense of, because right now, if you go to any thread on Reddit or Instagram or Twitter or YouTube about this derailment, I mean, every comment now is, are we under attack? Is this a coincidence? And that is an important distinction. Is it our own incompetence, in which case we need to fix that, and that's depressing, or is it this is a coordinated attack, this is modern warfare? And that's, well, I don't have the answer to that. I know you don't.
I've read some accounts that say that there have been problems, not just with Norfolk Southern, the railroad company involved, but this particular train line previously, and that problems were left go. They were not addressed and taken care of. But again, that responsibility is, yes, for the railroad company here involved, Norfolk Southern, other railroad companies too, but it is also, the responsibility of the National Safety Transportation Board, and it is the responsibility of the Department of Transportation. And the Secretary of the Department of Transportation.
And this is kind of sad, but will we see any action taken because of the direction of the plume and that it is going to the kind of elite coastal cities?
Well, the various federal agencies involved. I mentioned the National Transportation Safety Board, and others are conducting both air and water tests. They keep well, they've actually contracted that testing out to a company of their choosing. Those tests are coming back um, as negative. However, there are other videos online that are coming in from East Palestine showing uh, dead animals, dead fish, dead frogs in the water, in the creeks nearby. Um, they are talking about, they're interviewing people from East Palestine who are suffering all kinds of symptoms, from rashes to headaches to other reactions that followed the derailment, and the burn off of the dangerous chemicals. One of the results of burning vinyl chloride is that, and I'm not a chemist, but as best I understand it, there's a chemical reaction with moisture, with water, with humidity, that would be carried in the air, in the atmosphere, and that spreads all around, and may well be behind some of these symptoms that these people are experiencing. These are real. Videos of Senator J.D. Vance, for example, has been there to visit to East Palestine, down to the water creeks, and I don't know if it was Senator Vance, or it was someone else, but tossed a rock into
Yeah,
one of these little creeks,
I
right? You
saw
maybe
that.
saw
Yeah,
it too.
yeah.
And all kinds of rainbow colored, what would you call them?
Looked like an oil slick coming up from
Oil slick
underwater.
looking, yeah, phenomena rose to the surface of the water. It was obviously not safe water to drink. Um, the recommendation from the governor, Mike DeWine, and others, is for people to continue drinking from bottled water. What about the animals? What about people with farms and animals on those farms that need a lot of water every single day? Where does that come from? Um, the results, I think, are going to be long term. Unfortunately, I think this is going to wind up in the courts, and with good reason. These people have every reason, to bring their cases of harm, health maleffects, to the courts if they cannot get satisfaction any other way. But that's where this is going, I think.
And this is also not vetted, and I haven't found out if it's true, so take it with a grain of salt. But I guess there are like lawyers advising the people there to not sign whatever the EPA is going around
Hmm.
trying to get them to sign. Because I think right now there are people who are just kind of in the fog of a disaster, no pun intended, are just signing this thing because whatever the government officials here, and they might be signing away their rights for legal.
Yeah, reportedly, what has happened is when this
That ain't good.
company comes to a residence, a home, and says, we'd like to test your home's air, your water. Please sign this waiver, absolving everyone and anyone of any responsibility for anything. And the folks don't know, and they want their water and their air tested. And I've heard reports that some several hundred already have signed waivers like this. That is to waive their right to any kind of litigation, suits, lawsuits, or holding the railway, or anyone else in the federal government responsible or to account for what's happening to these people's lives.
At what point is it no longer out there to assume that there's an intentional weakening of the United States from the inside, from selling off our strategic oil reserves to having no southern border to the innumerable food processing plants and train derailments to the incursion of through our own sovereign airspace of a Chinese spy balloon. At what point do we have to start rationally examining that this is destruction from the inside? And that's
Well, I mean,
obviously my opinion. That's my own speculation, not yours.
yeah, I certainly think that we have every right to hold accountable the Biden administration for a number of disastrous decisions that administration has taken over the last couple of years. Let's begin with the disastrous retreat out of Afghanistan, turning over billions of dollars of top of the line American technology and weaponry to the Taliban. That set the stage for rogues of the world and friends and allies to see the United States as in decline, as withdrawing power and influence from the world on purpose, deliberately, and bring it home then. And you're talking about throwing open the southern border to an invasion of millions upon millions of illegal aliens coming in since the Biden administration took office. Those are deliberate decisions, as is this decision by the Biden administration, and in particular FEMA, to deny assistance to the people of East Palestine. As for some of the other phenomena that we've been watching, the disasters, the fires, and so forth at different food processing plants and poultry facilities. Hard to say. What I don't know is how this year or last year might compare graphically on a chart
Sure.
with previous years. I don't
No,
know that.
no, that's
And
fair.
I think that's the comparison that would have to be made. But it does seem, and with good reason, that there is a cluster of um, events detrimental to the well-being of us, of all of us Americans. A cluster of such events that seems to be just getting worse and worse. And then, of course, the Chinese Communist Party balloon caper.
Yeah. Yeah, that nice little cherry on top. Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't know. Someone might show me a chart of food processing plants fires for the last 60 years, and now I'm looking like an idiot. Like, that's more than likely. That often happens with this show. But I don't know. I guess the spidey sense is starting to go up, where it just seems like, I don't know, a lot of things that are all we keep flipping a coin, and every time it lands in favor to our enemies and to the detriment of us.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, a lot of that accountability must be laid at the feet of
Sure.
this administration and the people appointed to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just again, for disclaimer, that those are my opinions and not Miss Lopez's. But so realistically, what can be done about this? Is just do you have to let it be a controlled fire? I don't know anything about this, and I don't even want to pretend to know that I know how to deal with hazardous materials derailed from trains. I have no idea. I barely make it through each day making my own bed and cooking dinner. Like I like is there do you know that, like, what is this the best case? Like, burning is a controlled burn the least worst scenario?
Well, I do know what the officials said, that the pressure inside of some of the derailed railway cars was building up to the point that they feared an uncontrolled explosion of those railway cars. And that's why they leaked the fluid out of the cars in the first place. But then the decision how to dispose of the leaked vinyl chloride, and I guess other chemicals too, um, that question was resolved with the decision to burn it off. Now, again, I'm not an authority on this either, but that was an extremely detrimental decision to make for the people in the vicinity of that railway car derailment. And even though they evacuated people within just a simple 1 mile radius to begin with, although people further out also left, but then they told them, come on back within a couple days. Was that the best decision? I don't know. But what is so unsettling, I think, for the people of East Palestine, as well as the rest of us watching from around the country, is what appears to all of us like disregard, like a a disregard for the people who live there, for their lives, disruption, for what might be the long-term consequences for them and their children of exposure to this air, which drifts, by the way. Yes, as we know, the wind blows it in further directions. It's not just clustered and doesn't just stay above the railway cars. It drifts. So, what are the long-term consequences? Um, what about the water? What about any of these chemicals or the residue or the fallout from the burn, getting into the soil, crops, farmland? These are the things that the people of East Palestine and areas where the water and the air uh, are affecting and will affect, for quite some time to come, and we don't know how long. These are the kinds of questions that people have every right to expect to be answered, and those answers aren't forthcoming. And I think that's of a pattern, that we saw with the balloon incident. That there was an unwillingness on the part of our senior officials, not just Norfolk Southern, the railway, but EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, FEMA, the White House, the Department of Transportation, a reluctance to show concern and compassion for these people whose lives are affected now and might be affected on down the road. They deserve to know what the best health experts, environmental experts believe will be the result of the burn, the air, the water, traveling over distance and over time.
Um, I don't know if it's accurate, but did you see, I think today, it said that the official lines between the Chinese Communist Party military command and the US military command have been cut. I don't mean like physically cut. I mean they're not talking like as of today.
Well, we certainly know that, going back some days actually now, when our Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, tried to call his counterpart at the Ministry of Defense in China, um, Chinese wouldn't pick up the phone, wouldn't return his phone call. And that goes back several days now during the height of the
Balloon
objects,
hysteria.
yeah, saga. I don't know. I have not heard that situation has been rectified so far. There's been no update on that, but the report that came out several days ago was Chinese weren't picking up the phone for our defense secretary.
Can you
Not a
ima
good thing.
can you imagine that at any point in the last 50 years, a country not picking up the phone from the United States Secretary of Defense? Is
I
that
mean, the
even
disrespect that
comprehensible?
that shows is significant, I think.
Well, and
It shows that not only did the Chinese Communist Party, um, send this balloon, a directed balloon uh, course over U.S. sovereign territory, did not apologize for it, took responsibility for it. I'm talking about the first incident now, the balloon. And the only one we know for a fact was actually a balloon.
Mhm.
Talking about that one. Um, that they were so confident, the Chinese were so confident that not only would our senior leadership in the White House, in the Pentagon, ignore the violation of American sovereignty that balloon traversing the entire width of our country represented, but that they could basically get away with then turning around and blaming the United States for, uh, I guess what did they say, unnecessary escalation or something to that effect. Because finally, after many days, when that balloon went off of the east coast of South Carolina into U.S. territorial waters there in the Atlantic, we shot the thing down. Finally, but they were so I mean, this is the absolute definition of chutzpah. Not only we're going to fly our balloon, which, by the way, had very sophisticated sensor systems for eavesdropping on communications as they passed over and nearby our sensitive military installations, but also a very high resolution camera for taking photos of those places as it passed across the entirety of our country. Not only did China, you know, uh, I guess have the confidence that they could get away with this without being held to account in any serious way. But then they turned around and as I said, had the chutzpah to blame us for eventually shooting the thing down. This is not the kind of relationship that the United States needs to have with China. It's not the kind of relationship that we had during the 4 years of President Donald Trump, when this never would have happened, among other things, that never would have happened. But it's very unsettling to realize that under the Biden administration, the Chinese Communist Party, feels that it can get away with just about anything. And the question, of course, is what next?
And as you said, the disrespect, well, respect is earned. That, if they're not picking up the phone, it's because they're feeling themselves as well as they should. Why would you fear us right now? That's what respect
Well,
comes
and this
from.
this gets to looking ahead. This was in every respect a trial balloon.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, what's
and we
next?
know, of course, that Xi Jinping and the CCP, the PLA, People's Liberation Army, are gauging their future course of action with regard to Taiwan. Does this give them any pause? This kind of situation give them any kind of pause when they decide when, how, whether to make a grab for Taiwan? Is there any credible deterrence left that would give the Chinese Communist Party any kind of pause in pursuing those plans that we know that they have to seize Taiwan? Doesn't look like it.
Doesn't look like it at all. Yeah, and the idea that they're not looking ahead a month, a year, a decade. If anything, I would give credit to the Biden administration in that aid to Ukraine showed that we would aid a country being invaded. So maybe that would make them think
Yes,
twice of Taiwan.
yes, but in the lead up to Putin's invasion of Ukraine just about 1 year ago now, in February of 2022, we had the window of time during which we could have bolstered Ukrainian defenses in a very serious way, but we didn't. And I think the reason was that it was thought, and I'm speculating here a little bit, but thought that if were Russia to invade Ukraine, it would be over very quickly. They would topple the Zelensky government in Kiev. They would go on to seize the entire country, and there's not much anybody could do about it. That apparently was the assessment. And so, in that period of time leading up to the Russian invasion, that critical period of time when deterrence might have been established by sending defensive weaponry to Ukraine, then that wasn't done. And only afterward, when it was seen how courageously the Ukrainians and their president Volodymyr Zelensky would fight, for the independence, for the sovereignty, for the nationhood of Ukraine. When that was finally understood, then we started sending more and more defensive weapon systems. Well, we're in that window of time right now before Taiwan is invaded, is attacked by Beijing. This is the time, this is the window when serious, credible deterrence could be established, should be established. Now, yes, we can see that there are U.S. government talks and agreements being made with the Philippines, for example, to bolster military defenses there in the Philippines, bolstering defensive capabilities on Guam as well. Hopefully, discussions among our friends and allies of the region, the Quad as it's called, India, United States, Japan, and Australia, other allies to include the British, South Korea in the region right there, the Philippines, and others, Indonesia, right there in the region. But now's that window of time when credible deterrence could be built up and must be, in a way that would make Taiwan a porcupine, too spiny to digest. That's the objective. But what is the messaging that's going out? In many ways, it's not a messaging of credible deterrence.
I hope they do. I hope we put an end to this before it keeps going, but I'm a pretty optimistic guy, but I don't really see any silver linings to any of this. I don't know.
Well, I'm hopeful. I'm not going to give up on it yet.
Okay.
But I do think that programs like this one, and thank you for doing this, Tommy, but also other media, both broadcast and written, internet, social media, and a drumbeat of that, coupled with statements, with hearings to be held in now the Republican-held House of Representatives in the U.S. Congress, just a gathering of a drumbeat of this kind of messaging. I think it's important right now.
Yeah. Well, guess nothing to do but keep trying. But with that, Ms. Lopez, I said we wrap this one up, as I think we covered every aspect of this topic that we could. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, as always, for coming on here and speaking your wisdom and making me look smarter by proxy. So I appreciate that.
Good to be with you. Thank you, Tommy.
Yes, ma'am. As always, everybody, go to the description, go follow Claire on Twitter, all that good stuff. Until next time, Ms. Lopez, thank you so much.